So look at me, I'm all ghosty and horror-y, all rolled into one. Once more, for the people in the back, Murder by the Book's amazing. I'm going with my one true love, and I'm reading about murder. Why don't I take it out of the plastic? And this is the book who. We're in the home stretch. Hi everybody, it's Audrey and welcome back to Chapter and Converse. Today we are going to do that book haul that I kept saying I was going to do and never did, and here we are and we're doing it. And it has been way more than a minute since I have talked about books that I bought, and I have not done like one big haul, but I have slowly definitely accumulated books over the past at least couple months. So full disclosure, I was waiting for 2 of my pre-orders to show up. And then they showed up at the beginning of July. There was like a whole post office situation that happened. And then work ramped up, and then I started a new job, and then life got super crazy and everything got pushed off. So this is a whole bunch of books that I bought. There's going to be more coming because I've definitely gotten into a pre-order groove, but I figured let's just do this obnoxious pile first. And if you guys have followed me here or on Instagram or both, a lot of these will look familiar because I've either read them and talked about them, or I've like posted pictures of them because I got them and I was super excited about it. But I'm gonna go through this pile and I'm gonna tell you what I got, and I'll tell you what I know, and that's just how, that's what we're gonna do today. So the books that I got are a mix of, like I said, pre-order, some were gifted to me, some were thanks to gift cards, some were deals I found, some were things I just had to have. So it's a smorgasbord of how, why, where, when they came into my life. So the first 2 books were actually a gift from one of my subscribers. So thank you, Christine. This is so incredible. I was so surprised. No one has ever sent me anything before, so I can't even tell you how much this means to me. Not just because you sent me books, but also because of your super kind words and for watching. So first book she sent me is The Winter People by Jennifer McMahon. And Christine said this is her favorite Jennifer McMahon book. I read The Drowning Kind a few months ago, which was my first, and I have The Night Sister. But when I did my winter reads, like great books to read in the winter video, this was one of the books I had on there that was intriguing to me, so I'm excited for this. So this book is multiple timelines. We have 1908 and then we have present day, and they both take place at the same farmhouse in Vermont. And back in 1908, this woman Sarah was found dead in the field behind the house. And then in present day, we have Ruthie and her little sister Fawn live here with their mom Alice. And then one day Alice disappears, so when Ruthie is trying to look for clues about what could have happened to her mom, she stumbles upon Sarah's diary beneath the floorboards, and she gets sucked into this historical mystery, and it just sounds haunting and messed up and fabulous, and I can't wait. This also, I feel like this is like winter and fall spook fest. And then the second book that she got me is Shudder, and this is by Melissa Larson, and this came out pretty recently and was one of my anticipated 2021 releases. And it says, she landed a role of a lifetime, what will she do to keep it? So this is about a girl named Betty, and she breaks up with her boyfriend, her father passes away, and she basically runs away to New York because she doesn't know what she wants, so she runs. And then she is offered the chance to play a leading role in a mysterious indie filmmaker's new project. So she jumps at the opportunity. So it says, for a month, Betty will live in a cabin on a private island off the coast of Maine as part of a 5-person cast and crew. Her mother warns against it, but Betty is too drawn to the charismatic Anthony, who is our filmmaker, to say no. Anthony gives her a new identity, Lola, and Betty tells herself this is exactly what she's been looking for, the chance to reinvent herself. That is, until they begin filming and she meets Sammy, the island's caretaker, and Betty realizes just how little she knows about the movie and its director. So, isolated setting, dark and messed up. We've got some movie vibes. We've got a creepy cabin. And then this says, in the tradition of Patricia Highsmith and Daphne du Maurier, taut and barbed as razor wire. I'm so excited. Thank you, Christine, so much. I can't even tell you how much I appreciate it. Thank you. So I'm gonna start with the book that I'm reading right now, and it's As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson. So I posted about this. This is the 3rd book in the Good Girls Guide to Murder series. This came out in the UK already, so I ordered it through Book Depository. This came all the way from Australia. I am 150 pages in. It's like a 500-page book. And I don't want to tell you much about it because it's the third in the series, but what I will say is that I very much enjoy the writing again. I very much enjoy the story. I love Pip, and I love that you can see the arc that Pip has through the 3 books. I love how you can see how what happens in book 1 and 2 affects everything, and I'm just super excited about it. So another case that Pip is on, and I'm all in. So next up, I picked up the mass market paperback, which was reissued of Creep by Jennifer Hillier. So this is her first book. This originally came out in 2011, and then they reissued it earlier this year. It has a quick new forward from her. And normally I would not buy a mass market paperback in this day and age, but it's the only way that they put it out. And I am slowly collecting all of her books. So like I said, this is book number 1, and this is about a psychology professor in Seattle. And she is in a relationship, but she winds up having this 3-month affair with her teaching assistant, Ethan. And he is not only her teaching assistant, which, like, not a good idea. He's also 16 years younger than her, and they just go all in, but then her boyfriend proposes. She decides she wants to get her life back on track. She says, Ethan, we gotta... And he does not take that well, apparently. So, we will see what happens. I'm excited to read this. I have not read Jennifer Hillier since Little Secrets came out last year, and I know she didn't have a book this year, but one is going to be coming. So I definitely want to dive into her backlist. So I do have this, and I have Wonderland, and I'm going to read them. I'll let you guys know what I think. But I love her dark and messed up characters. Huge fan. The next book, I think I talked about either in like a most anticipated, but I hadn't picked it up yet, and it's Lost in the Neverwoods by Aiden Thomas. And this is a Peter Pan inspired, I would say, not a retelling. And I talked about this for sure in another video, that I want to read Peter Pan because I've never read it, you guys. I know I think I saw the cartoon when I was a kid. I don't really know the story of Peter Pan. I know it loosely, but I don't know it well enough to be able to spot Easter eggs after I read this book. But this is about Wendy and her 2 brothers. So 5 years ago, the 3 of them went missing, and they are living in Oregon. They vanished into the woods, and then Wendy returned, but her 2 brothers didn't, and Wendy has no memory of what happened. And now other children are starting to disappear, and it resurrects everything that happened to Wendy and losing her brothers and the whole thing. So she just wants to get away. And it says Wendy almost runs over an unconscious boy lying in the middle of the road. Peter, a boy she thought lived only in her stories, asks Wendy for help to rescue the missing kids. But in order to find them, Wendy must confront what's waiting for her in the woods. So I've heard some really lovely things about this book, and Aiden Thomas wrote Cemetery Boys, which I haven't read yet, but I'm really intrigued by the Peter Pan. It's also beautiful. Beautiful covers is definitely going to be a theme of this video too, but I'm excited for this one. So I need to read Peter Pan first, and then I'm going to go straight into that. Kind of like what I did with Frankenstein and the Mary Shelley Club. Next book is another 2021 new release, and this is Who is Maud Dixon by Alexandra Andrews. So I talked about this when it first came out also, but I just picked it up recently. And this is one of those books where everyone who I've seen review it has said, don't read the inside flap because it spoils some stuff, so just go right in. So I know I fully read the inside flap to you guys months ago. Don't go back and find that video, ignore it. And all I know is that this is about a woman, Maud Dixon, who is sort of this mysterious writer, and nobody knows who she is. It's a pseudonym for someone. And then this other woman, Florence, I don't want to see, winds up working for Maud Dixon as her assistant, and like something crazy happens. So I've heard it compared to Ripley, which I love, and I'm really curious. I've heard really, really great things about this book from other booktubers and online reviews. And of course, I have listened to endless podcasts and interviews and all that other stuff. So this is pretty high on my list right now. There's so many books I want to get to, but this is one that I'm definitely, it was between this and another book, which I'll talk about here, when I was trying to decide what to read next. But I read the other book first, so I will read that one. I'm gonna read them all, but I want to read this one sooner rather than later. So the book that I just finished is Kill All Your Darlings by David Bell. And this is about a college professor named Connor. And a few years ago, he was reviewing a thesis for one of his students, and then she mysteriously disappeared. And Connor, who doesn't have tenure, hasn't written anything or published anything in like 7 or 8 years, he's got a whole closet full of baggage, decides to publish that book as his own. And when the book opens, the book has just come out, And as it turns out, this book, which is a thriller and twisty and like this great mystery, also kind of implicates him in a murder that actually happened. And Connor's like, I'm sorry, what? So this is dark academia. This is multiple points of view, multiple timelines. You talk about like the moral dilemma of like, what would you do? And this has been compared to The Plot. And I actually humiliatingly have that. And I don't think I've talked to you guys about that. It's here somewhere. But it's a similar vein about a professor who takes someone's story and publishes it as their own. But then I think that's where the plots really deviate. So you have some police investigation in this one. I really enjoyed this. I was in for it. I enjoyed the writing. This is my first David Bell book. I love, you know, anything college-y, anything about a writer. I'm in for it. So I'm going to read The Plot again. I'm like, I'm gonna read this one really soon. I'm gonna read The Plot really soon. I do want to read it to see the comparisons or like the similarities to it, but they both just came out recently. So neither one is influenced by the other. It's just one of those weird, freaky coincidences that sometimes books that are similar come out at the same time, and this is one of them. But I'll talk more in my monthly wrap-up. But I'm excited for that. Or I read it, so I was excited that I read it because I really liked it. Staying on the dark academia path, one of the pre-orders I was waiting for, and they shipped together from Murder by the Book, which you guys know I love, is The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. And this is one of my most anticipated books. I am saving it for September because I'm gonna do this whole sort of fall school dark academia vibe to my TBR, even though I don't make TBRs, but I'm waiting for the fall to read this. And this book not only is one of my most anticipated, I love him. It's autographed, which is super cool. And they sent me this pin. So the Maidens are the secret society in this. There we go. So I got this pin, which is fabulous. I'm happy to be one of the Maidens, even though I don't think they're necessarily, I don't know if they're good or bad, or the professor is good or bad. But I've heard some mixed bag on this, which, so it's a little bit disappointing, but I'm also not letting it dissuade me from reading the book because I really like The Silent Patient, and I heard mixed bag on that too, and I thought that was great. So I'm excited to see what he does. So spellbinding tale of psychological suspense, weaving together Greek mythology, murder, and obsession. I mean, it's giving me secret history vibes, it's giving me all the dark academia vibes, and I'm excited. So a book that I mentioned last month, which I still have not finished, is One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. I just haven't gotten back to it yet, so I'm still right where I was, page 217. And this is about a girl who moves to New York City. She's taking the train every day to go to college. And then she meets this woman, Jane, on the train and falls in love with her, but there's some hitches and there's some complications in why they can't be together. So this is one of those books where, and I'm finding this a lot lately, the description of the book, and I think I said this in my last video too, definitely gives way too much away. So either it shouldn't have been on the back or the book should have started further in because we already know so much of what's happening long before it happens. So I was frustrated with that, but I like the writing. I really enjoyed Red, White, and Royal Blue. I know I'm gonna go back to this. I just need to be in the right mood, and probably a surprise to nobody, I'm just feeling murdery lately, and I want the dark murdery books. So that's I'm going with my one true love, and I'm reading about murder. So the next few books were inspired by recommendations from Abby at Crime by the Book, and I've talked about her before, but I feel like I haven't talked about her in a while. But I went through sort of a lot of her like deep dive kind of older recommendations. I was looking for some backlist, not fresh off the shelf books to read, and from authors I haven't read before, stories I haven't read before, just trying to branch myself out some more. And I picked up a whole bunch of books that I think are gonna be great. So the first one I got is called The Butterfly Garden, and this is by Dot Hutchinson. And this reminds me a little bit of Kiss the Girls. So this came out in 2016. Kiss the Girls by James Patterson, which I wanna say was the first James Patterson I ever read. And I read it when I lived alone for the first time. Don't do that. But this one is about an isolated mansion, and this man known as the gardener, or I don't even know if it's a man, it just says the gardener, has been kidnapping girls, and he intricately tattoos them to resemble their namesake butterflies, because at this isolated mansion with the beautiful garden, there's butterflies everywhere. So the garden winds up getting discovered. So we have an FBI investigation, and there is a survivor from the group. And it says, but the girl known only as Maya proves to be a puzzle herself. As her story twists and turns, slowly shedding light on life in the butterfly garden, Maya reveals old grudges, new saviors, and horrific tales of a man who'd go to any length to hold a beauty captive. But the more she shares, the more the agents have to wonder what she's still hiding. So this sounds super dark and messed up. And I've got some books that I feel like are pushing my comfort zone. Like, the girl reads Pet Sematary and she thinks she's like all down with horror and creepy things. So we'll see, but this sounds super interesting and I am not hearing anybody talk about it. Again, it's a backlist, it's 2016, so I'm excited for that. And then the next book is a Japanese cult classic mystery. So this is the Decagon house murders, and I 1000% am not gonna be able to pronounce this author's name. Yukito, I'm sorry, Ayatushi? That's totally not right. So that's the author. This book was translated into English, and this actually came out in 1987 originally, and then it was reprinted in 2007, and then I think it was reprinted again now. So based on And Then There Were None, and it says the lonely rock-bound island of Tsusujima is notorious as the site of a series of bloody unsolved murders. Some even say it's haunted. One thing's for sure, it's the perfect destination for the K University Mystery Club's trip. But when the first club member turns up dead, the remaining amateur sleuths realize they will all need their murder mystery expertise to get off the island alive. As the party are picked off one by one, the survivors grow desperate and paranoid, turning on each other. Will anyone be able to untangle the murderer's fiendish plan before it's too late? So, totally And Then There Were None. And I'm excited for it. So, whew. I had never heard of this before. Again, I feel like I really need to branch way beyond the new release top 100 list and really do a better job of expanding my reading. So that's what I'm trying to do. And I say that, and then I'm going to hold up The Hunting Wives by May Cobb. So I know, I was so excited for this. This is like Desperate Housewives with guns in Texas. I loved it. So I already read this one, and this was the book when I was thinking between this and Maud Dixon. So way back, and I never talked about this because I don't really talk about a lot of non-bookish stuff on here, but I was applying for a new job and I was interviewing for a new job, and I'll do a catch-up video with you guys. I'm at the same company. I just moved into a new department and a new position, but I made a deal with myself that if I got the job, I was going to reward myself with a book, and this was the book I wanted. So I bought it and I read it. So this is another book where I would say, do not read this. It gives way too much away, and I'm sorry I read it. So all you need to know about this is about a group of women in Texas. So our main character, Sophie, has moved here with her husband and their young child about 7 months ago. But when Sophie was a junior and senior in high school, she lived in this town. But her and her mom moved around a ton. So she hasn't been back in a long time. She has one friend from back in the day. But Sophie is sort of enamored by this group of moms, rich women, sort of this inner circle of, it's like late 30s, early 40s, kind of mean girls, cliquey. And Sophie wants to be a part of it. And she gets to be a part of it. And maybe she should not have wanted to be a part of it, because what I will tell you, because you find out on page 1, is somebody is dead. And then we go to different timelines. We go sort of lots of, I don't even want to say like past and present, but we move around a lot in the timeline. We eventually figure out what happened. And oh, Sophie, you should have just not tried to be friends with these women. But it was so delicious and soapy. And like I said, it's very Desperate Housewives. There's like some dark humor to it. There's some fabulous dark and messed upness of it. There's guns, there's booze, there's partying, there's just all sorts of stuff. I really loved this book. This was like a delicious soap opera of a book with murder in it, and I loved it. I had such a great time with that book. Totally did. Can't wait to see what else Makeup has written other things, which I was having a hard time finding, but I know she's got a new book coming out because I saw it on Instagram already. So I'm excited to read more of what she's got. Okay, another book I have already read and talked about is Bathhouse by PJ Vernon. I loved this. Also dark and messed up people doing dark and messed up things. This is about Oliver and Nathan. They have been together for 5 years. Oliver on page 1 makes the genius decision to cheat on his husband when his husband is out of town, and it is a decision that basically wrecks his entire life, as you can possibly imagine. So this goes so crazy off the rails. I loved it. It was just full of unlikable people, but I was still rooting for people. I had such a good time with that book. Highly, 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 hugely recommend that one. A book I haven't read yet, but again, we're saving this for September, is The Autobuys by Alexa Dunn. And Alexa Dunn has a huge AuthorTube channel. She's someone I follow for writing advice, and I just generally enjoy her content. This is her third book, I wanna say. So she did some fantasy kind of romance, and this is college admissions, boarding school. The tagline is like, admissions are killer. And it's kind of Mean Girls also, and dark and messed up. And I just very much enjoy her. They'd kill to get in. That's the tagline. Maybe open the book, girl. So it's about a girl named Olivia, and then Alexa Dunn went to BU. I went to BU also. So I know there's tons of Easter eggs in here. Like the name of the academy is called Claflin, which is one of the dorms on West Campus. So I'm excited for this, but again, saving it for the fall. And then I talked about how I loved Beach Read, and I was like, I'm gonna read all the Emily Henrys. So I picked up People We Meet on Vacation, and then I haven't read it yet, but I will. But I loved Beach Read, and I'm excited for this. So this is about Poppy and Alex, and they are two best friends. They take a trip every summer, and it says, one last chance to fall in love. So something happened on a trip a couple years ago that ruined everything. And they haven't spoken since, but now Poppy wants to fix it, so I guess she convinces Alex to go on like one last vacation together, and that's what this is. But I'm excited for this. I'm really just surprised myself how much I fell in love with Beach Read, but at the same time, I don't know why I'm surprised, because I don't always need murder to make myself happy, but I'm excited to get into this, and I will, and I'm not gonna necessarily wait till next summer, so that'll be good. So another thriller I have by Shannon Kirk, and this is called In the Vines. And this was like a random, I feel like I was searching for books and this totally randomly came up. And this is sort of like dark and messed up rich people in New England. Hello, totally fine for me. So family ties so strong you can't escape. This is about a woman, her name is Mary Olivia Pentecost, and she's affectionately known as Mop. And she was born into one of the wealthiest families in the country and one of the most guarded. Her mom died mysteriously 2 years ago, and Mop is seeking closure on the tragedy. She returns to the New England seaside town and the estate, and her aunt Liv lives there. So it says, behind the walls of the isolated estate, the shadows of the past are darker than Mop imagined. The puzzles of the family history are not to be shared, but unearthed. With each revelation comes a new foreboding threat. And for Mop, the grave suspicion that to discover Auntie Liv's secrets is to become a prisoner of them. How well do we know the people we love? How well do we want to know them? The answers are as twisted as a tangle of vines in this throat-clutching novel of psychological suspense. It's kind of isolated. It's mysteries, I'm guessing. Now, obviously mysteries in the past. I don't know if there's mysteries in the present in this one as well. This came out in 2018, so this was not anywhere near my radar. I think this was recommended when I was looking at something else. So I see chapter 1, it says present time. So I'm guessing we're gonna get multiple timelines in this one, but excited. And also, again, these covers are killing it. Okay, another Abby recommendation. This is I Remember You, and this is a ghost story, it says. And so we see Ursa's name here. Here's what I love about this. On the back in her bio, there's a pronunciation. So it says Ursa Sigurdardóttir. And this is a terrifying tale of 3 friends set to work renovating a rundown house in a remote, totally isolated location. Ding, ding, ding. But they soon realize they're not as alone as they thought. Someone wants them to leave. Meanwhile, in a nearby town, a young doctor investigating the suicide of an elderly woman discovers that she was obsessed with his vanished son. When the two stories collide, the shocking truth becomes horribly clear. This is compared to Stephen King and John Lindquist, who I don't know and I'm embarrassed. I probably should know who that is. Horrifying thriller, partly based on a true story. Eek. And it said it will stun readers, out of this world ghost story. So again, I'm like, oh, I read a Simone St. James. I can be ghosty. So look at me, I'm all ghosty and horror-y, all rolled into one. And this actually came out in 2012. So check me out with my backlist. I feel like I need to do a backlist video. That's gonna be perfect for the fall too. So another book I've already talked about, The Other Black Girl by Zakiya Dalila Harris. I reviewed this in July. I very much enjoyed this book. This is, I would say, literary suspense with a twinge of horror. Do not go in expecting fast-paced thriller, but go in. It's a great book. There's so much commentary on this. The writing is beautiful. Messed up publishing world. Loved it. I told you guys, one more time, Survive the Night by Riley Sager. This was my Murder by the Book pre-order that shipped with the Maidens. I got my personalized version of it, which I'm excited about. I loved it. I talked about this in July also. Here it is. I'm obviously going to talk about it at someday or at some time again, but for the foreseeable future, you probably won't have to hear me listen to me talk about it anymore. But I loved it. What I did not love is that book came out on June 29th. That book went to 15 different places, including like right near where I live, then like got put on the wrong truck and went to the Midwest and then came all the way back down around. I waited weeks for those to show up and I was none too thrilled about it. What I am thrilled about is that Murder by the Book packages their things so perfectly that my box, when I tell you there were so many labels on it, that box had seen things. And the contents of my box, which included those 2 books and 2 mugs, were pristine. So, once more, for the people in the back, Murder by the Book's amazing. And then the last book I got, which I'm so excited for also, and this was like another reward to me. Not like I need to reward myself for things, but I did. So this is In My Dreams, I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. And this is one of those books that I don't know how this was not on my August most anticipated. I don't know how this passed me by, other than to tell you guys that like I have just been in a fog and treading water lately. So this is mysteries in the past, mysteries in the present. You have dark and messed up people doing dark and messed up things. I haven't read it yet. This is just based on what I've heard in interviews. And we have 6 friends, 1 college reunion, and 1 unsolved murder. So it's been 10 years since these girls were at Duquesne University, and they were this clique of girls, and one of them is murdered in the past, senior year, and there's all sorts of secrets that are holding them together or tearing them apart, or I don't even know what, because I don't want to know too much, but I am thrilled to bits to dive into this one too. So September, I basically, at the rate I'm going, need to read a book every day to do all the books that I want to read. So that's gonna do it. I know it was a lot. I know I talked fast, but let me know, have you guys picked up anything lately in the past couple of months? And of these books that I haven't read, would you recommend any of them over the others? Thoughts, feelings, all the stuff. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching and staying this long. But I hope you guys are doing well, and I will talk to you soon in another video. Bye everybody.